On this channel, we've been talking about the identity shift, shifting into a new identity. But let's take a moment to talk about how to stabilize that new identity so you don't revert back into the old one. I know you've heard the saying 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's kind of a slow way of getting somewhere. What if we could take 2 steps forward and no steps back? How about that? How about we just pause if necessary instead of going backward? Let's talk about that for a little while. Have you ever grown, felt like you stepped into a new version of yourself, only to slip back into the old pattern? That doesn't mean that you failed. It means your new identity is not stable yet. Welcome back to Creative Metaphysics. Here's something every creator experiences at one point or another. You grow, you shift, you step into something new. But then when pressure hits, you feel yourself fall back. And that's not failure, that's instability. And today, we're going to fix that. The first thing we have to understand is that slipping back is part of the process. When old habits come back, feels like you're going backwards, but you're not. You're not losing progress. You're seeing where the new identity hasn't fully taken root yet. And that's the difference between this pause and this step or backwards. I remember when I felt like or thought that I had lost progress. There was a moment where I thought I had moved past certain patterns. I felt stronger, I felt more consistent. Then stress hit and old habits came back. Same hesitation, the same overthinking. And I thought, I lost it. But I didn't. I just hadn't stabilized it yet. Ask yourself, where have you told yourself you're going backward when you're actually still building? You see, your system defaults to what is safe or what feels safe. So when pressure hits, your system looks for something familiar. And what's familiar? The old identity. Not because it's better, just because it's known. Stress reveals the default. I noticed something under pressure. When things were calm, I showed up as a new version of me. But when things got heavy, I slipped back into old reactions, old habits. That's when I realized that calm doesn't test identity. Pressure does. Be honest. Who do you become when things feel hard? Because that's your current default. Stability comes from repetition. You don't stabilize identity by doing something once. You stabilize it by repeating it. Not when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. What do you choose when you're under pressure? There was a moment where I felt that pull, that urge to fall back. And this time, I caught it. I paused, and I chose differently. It wasn't perfect, but it was different. And that moment mattered because that's what builds stability. Ask yourself this. When things get uncomfortable, do you repeat the old pattern or practice the new one? And if you're realizing right now that growth isn't just about change, but about maintaining that change, that's exactly why I created the Creator's First Shift. It helps you understand the patterns that keep pulling you back, the beliefs behind those patterns, and how to interrupt them in real time. So you're not just growing, you're stabilizing that growth. The link's in the description. Costs about the same as a cup of coffee. But the shift it creates in your consistency, that's what keeps you moving forward. Let's talk about the real reason or the real shift that happens under pressure. The new identity becomes real when it shows up under stress. Not when things are perfect, but when things are hard. Because that's when your system decides what it actually trusts. Ask yourself, what do you do when you feel overwhelmed? Do you fall back or do you stay aligned? That's where identity is decided. And here's a secret about that. In terms of an old and new identity, in order for your body to choose, you to choose the new identity, it actually has to feel better than the old one. The old identity felt safe. So the new one has to feel stronger, more aligned, more powerful, more real. Because your system stays where it feels rewarded. Ask yourself, do you actually feel better when you show up as the new version of you? Or are you still tied to the comfort of the old one? And that matters. Here's a simple truth in terms of identity. You stabilize through daily wins. Here's how you lock it in. You expect the old patterns to show up. You don't judge it, but you do interrupt it. And then choose a small action from the new identity. Not a big move, but a small one. Because small wins build identity faster. Ask yourself, what is one small action you can take today that reinforces who you are becoming? Take that step. Remember this, you don't stabilize identity by being perfect. You stabilize it by being consistent, by choosing the new version of you again and again until it becomes your default. Not because you forced it, but because you built it. And that's the shift.